Thank you for staying with me. It's TMI, Tuesday, the 20th day of April. Well, yesterday, the president made a broadcast, and the pull out from the broadcast was there's going to be a gradual easing of the restriction order placed on places of lockdown, which in the FCT, Abuja, Lagos, and Ogun states, and starting from Monday next week, which is 4th of May. And being that as it is, also the need for law enforcement agents to ensure that they do not abuse the rights of human beings. Well, in that discussion, we are going to be having a chat with Osagie Godsent Erunse. Osagie Godsent Erunse is a public affairs analyst and president of Association for Formidable Educational Development, and also executive director of Africa Emancipation Project. Good to have you join me.
Thank you. Good morning, Phil. Good morning, viewers. Thank you so much.
The president broadcast made some laudable remarks yesterday. Do you feel so?
Anyway, for me, not really. Of course, there were some pick-up points, but I think we still need to double up our efforts, because there was just little or no different from the past broadcast.
Okay, but in the area of gradually easing off the restriction placed on FCT Lagos, Ogun State.
That is a pick-up point, like I said, because the truth is that was exactly what the whole citizenry was wanting to know. Are we free now?
A lot of persons thought it's going to be another 2 weeks.
Another 2 weeks, yes. That was the speculation, because before then...
But it was heavenly grace to say that it was reduced.
But don't also forget, it's not a total lift-up. It's a partial easing. It's just easing of...
A gradual
process, easing of the lockdown. So... that is a welcome development.
Most especially if you look at the enormity of the challenge of the pandemic.
Yes, of the pandemic.
Because if you ease them off immediately, it's like a waste of time. All that you've done was just a waste of time, because there could be a rebound of the virus.
It's a point. I think one of the most beautiful things that happened in that broadcast was the locked off interstate borders. Because I've always said that is germane, that is key to handling these issues.
Which he really said yesterday.
Yes, which he actually said. Because if these state borders are locked down, then it gives the governors of each state the opportunity to really fast track the situation in their own state without having imported case from neighboring states. So that is very fantastic. So with that, I think the ease down of the lockdown for Lagos, Ogun, and Abuja is a welcome development.
It's a welcome development.
Yeah, it's a welcome development, because it would have been more terrible and excruciating. A lot of Nigerians were already weeping, like the NLC have said. If that wasn't done, we would probably start having a case of hunger pandemic. Okay,
some also said that the government lacks the local standard or the legality to place places on lockdown when it's not bringing up palliative measures to cushion the effect, because some persons, in spite of the palliatives being rolled out by the federal government, some are saying that where are the palliatives, or we're not seeing. So what do you have to say in that direction?
First of all, in terms of the legality of that has been a fight between the vice president, Falana, and the Nobel laureate, Olesheka. I think the vice president have also come, in the past, have cleared the air by saying that there was a certain law enacted that gave the president that right. But
most especially as it has to do with public safety.
As it has to do with public safety, but I'm more interested in the part B of it, the survivor, palliatives. You see, we are talking about our rights as humans. Part of my disappointment is the fact that the issue of the palliative is still not addressed. You see, sometimes, Phil, we are tempted to ask ourselves, are we in the same nation with the Northerners? Because as I speak to you, some Northerners are receiving money. But the 20,000 palliative measures that have been promised to all Nigerians, I've not heard or seen a Southerner that have come up to say, I've received my alert of 20K. Despite the conditions of you must have less than 5,000 naira in your account.
That is not to say that it's not going on, like in the West, for instance.
But it's in the West, many of the things we hear are paper talks. But in actual terms, where are these persons? Who are those that come up and say we have received it? And don't also forget that just about a month ago, the Minister of, I think it's Social Welfare, said over 600 billion also have been spent on this issue. You know, that was when the Senate was asking her for the register, which could not be defended accurately. You see, so the point is, we keep on hearing every day that billions of naira have been allotted for palliatives. But what is the reach? How many persons have received these palliatives? And just of recent, we started hearing about the 1,800 rice, bag of rice saga. Western state government, I think 2 state governments have already rejected that the, rice, the palliative measure will be withheld. But what I'm saying in essence is the government is not doing enough in terms of palliatives.
Okay, looking at the need to stem unrest, because like what happened in Anambra State, where the governor did say that is easing of restriction on the lockdown because of unrest, and looking at the need, because it's one thing for you to give palliatives, it's another for you to give enough palliatives to last for that period of time on lockdown. Otherwise, there could be unrest. Are you thinking of that or worried about that?
Let me quickly say that, first of all, these things are not far-fetched. There are methods that could be used to address it. I want to acknowledge the fact that no government in the world can completely 100% cater for their citizens. And like I've always argued, Nigerians are not greedy people. Nigerians are very easy and understanding people. If this government have been giving Nigerians just 5,000 in 2 weeks to ease the hunger pandemic, there would have been all sort of praises. And for me, it was quite embarrassing for the government to come up and say if you have less than 5,000, meaning that the government have accepted that we are the poverty capital of the world, of the globe. Because you expect me to live with less than 5,000. If I have less than 5,000 in my account, it means I'm a made man in Nigeria. And that cannot even pay for one medical bills. You see, the point I'm trying to say in essence is there are ways to go about all of these palliatives to avoid this civil unrest. But there is lack of sincerity in the part of the government of the day. And that's the reason why you look at the pictures we see on Facebook.
If we also take a comparison with the developed polities that are also crying out for lack of funds, even the food banks going out of stock, and then the government of the day finding a way to also get some money from one corner to ensure that the citizens are well catered for. This is a global thing, not peculiar to Nigeria alone. So why are your worries so much on the government?
Phil, do you know how much Nigeria have received in terms of foreign support? The last time I checked, it was well over 40 billion. Okay, that's foreign. We're talking about contributions by international bodies, World Banks and what have you.
How does that translate? How does that translate to enough money in every citizen's pocket?
See, take it
40 billion, well over 40 billion, you said.
Yes.
How does that translate to enough money in every citizen's pocket? That's still a far cry.
See, the point I am trying to establish here is this. Why do we have the 3 tiers of government?
Okay.
Why do we have the councillors? There are systems in place through which every Nigerian can be reached. Why do we have the banking system? Okay, why is it that in the distribution of palliatives, it's taking a whole lot of time for this palliative to come to South-South? But the North does not have a problem.
You're not getting, Osage.
Okay, are you saying there are no poor people in the South and in the West?
It's not to use a particular platform.
Listen,
but what we're having here is, where are the resources? I think the resources are scarce.
Let me say this. Before you say we are out of resources, what have you done with the ones we had? We are talking about financial integrity and accountability here. Because now the government is saying there is no resource and whatever. Okay, what have you done with the ones that you had?
But
now
do you think that's the time for that?
Allocation.
Do you think that's the time for that?
But just about 4 weeks ago, the Senate invited the Minister of Social Welfare or what have you, to defend the palliatives. I think about 500 billion was allotted for it and all of that.
But you again, we agree that if we are to go in that long stretch, a lot that the government should be focusing on will be left behind, and that would be a distraction. And you again will come to this platform and debate it and argue against the government for allowing such distractions to make it lost focus. What do you have in that direction?
Are you going to say that Survivor is a distraction? I mean, we are talking about hunger pandemic. For the government to set up an integrity team that will ensure that every Nigerian are catered for, that is going to be a distraction? No. Then we should forget the threat of the COVID-19 and hit the streets.
No, you spoke about giving an account. You spoke about giving an account.
Look at it.
And it's not, like some will argue, this is not the time for giving an account. There's always a time for everything. Now, the focus here is, how are you making sure resources are available in spite of our scarce resources? Don't you think that's a challenge? Because they say uneasy lies the head that carries the burden.
Did you see profoundly?
Yeah.
the attention given to Kano State in the presidential address. I mean, so much attention. The president said it in his speech.
But if you look at the
death toll,
if you look at the death toll in Kano,
yes,
if that happened in other states,
you don't know my
that
psychology
will also be there.
Let me land. You know, for you can talk with ease at this level, because let me quickly say this: accountability is not something that is far-fetched. That's the reason why it's a global world, it's a digital world. But when politicians want to siphon wealth, they try to sweep a lot of things under the carpet so that they can trade figures. Now, why I made reference to Kano is because when the Kano state governor came up and accused the federal government of neglect, there was so much attention. Part of my problem is the South governors. You know, no matter how much their people are being marginalized, they are quiet because of affiliation of political parties. And that's why I give kudos to governors that could come up and say, hey, this bag of rice are not consumable. Someone was discussing with me just yesterday about this issue and said probably that was what happened during the saga of the rice that was supposed to be sent to the IDP in Edo State. When the IDP said, hey, they didn't receive this number of rice. Remember, the PDP then picked it up. They said probably these rice were bad. Maybe they were beweaved. But the governor were not so bold to come out and say, this is the issue. But later on, the letter said some of the rice were no good. Now, we are talking about sincerity in governance. Part of the problem I think we have is not how to put our figures together. But the major problem we have is corruption. Let me quickly say this to you. Some people are using this pandemic as an opportunity to get richer. Because it doesn't make sense when you hear the figure that have been spent and it comes to actual terms to ask what are the breakdowns of what this money have been used for. It will be embarrassing to see it. So for a government to come and say, there are no monies, what have you done with the funds you had? The donations from good public-spirited individuals. Okay. What are the engagement? Because for you to attract more funds, it's just like someone said. I want to quote him, but I won't mention his name. I can't give my money to the Nigerian government. Rather, I would prefer to face the public and give palliative measure to the public directly. And for me, that is a goal for me. If I have enough money, I'll take the same decisions. Because I can't give my money to thieves.
No, you can't say that because there's no
accountability
evidence to say that.
Where there is no accountability, what do you call that? What did the minister told the honorable members of the Senate about the register? That he doesn't know where the register came from.
But I think that could be speculated. These are just speculations because you can't really get this statement out on board and generalize. Please, I think you have to retrieve that statement.
The interview.
But it's quite important you retrieve that statement.
All right, retrieve if you say so. That is at your own request. But the point is this, Phil. As long as we continue to be economical with the truth, we'll remain where we are. Even when we are not being economical with the truth, these guys are not listening. Our leaders are not listening. The politicians are not listening. See, what I'm trying to say in essence, that is not to say that some things have not been done. But the point I'm trying to raise is that more should have been done and achieved by this time.
Looking at prudence in governance.
Yes, prudence in governance. Just a few weeks ago, it was said that our neighboring country here, Ghana, have tested over 16,000. As at then, Nigeria have not tested up to 10,000. These are issues.
The aspect of testing is a big challenge here.
It's a big challenge, but don't also forget.
Even the chairman of the presidential task force on it, Boss Mustafa, was even saying it.
Everything is a big challenge in Nigeria. You see, that's what we are saying. To share palliative is a big challenge.
You were even talking about having local test kits.
Yes, last time I was advocating for that.
Okay.
That's the reason why I said that. There are three things about governance. The sincerity and the willpower. You see, that's why when I talk about Nigerian issues, I always try to avoid something, Phil. When it comes to Nigeria, we try to mystify the whole thing and make it seem as if it's not possible, this thing is not as easy as you say, but it's working in even neighboring African countries. So what do you say about that?
Okay, let's leave that. Let's talk about the
It's taking how many weeks to
Let's talk about the interstate lockdown.
Okay, it's taking how many weeks to make sure there is an even distribution of palliatives. So are people going to die before they get the so-called 20,000 naira? Or 10,000 naira for first installment.
Let's look at the area of the interstate lockdown, which even the 36 state governors came up to bring up as a resolution on the need for that to be really implemented. And the president voiced that out during the broadcast yesterday. Don't you see this as laudable?
I want to see that as very laudable. Okay. And I also want to use this opportunity to call on our state governor to be more proactive. We are tired of seeing northerners moving about with when you call cows or tomatoes and the influx of other people from other states. Now, I agree.
When you say our state governors,
our
or
state,
you mean
listen, I mean the state governor of Edo, governor of Edo State should be more proactive in ensuring that the security agencies are up and doing in implementing the laws, in ensuring that there are no compromise. Because we have been hearing from all kind of local medias about the fact that till date we have uncontrollable movement. But thank God for that point. That's the reason why I said that was one of the pickup.
Okay.
Everybody should stay in their state. Then the situation can be arrested. Then again, the local government chairman should be engaged. Then the councillors. If there are councillors that have been indicted of corruption, because in the last governor's speech, he said that you know there are a lot of accusations that some councillors did not really distribute the first palliative that went out. For example, let me give you an example. In my community in Enye, 10 kg bag of rice were brought for a population of over 500,000 people to the Odion way of that community. Enye community. So it's not spiritual, it's physical. You can find that. 10 kg rice, 3 were brought for the whole community. Now the governor we snap that.
We are yet to verify that.
You can verify. That's why I just quoted the place. I gave you all the address. You can go and verify that. That can come out on news and say Nigerians are no longer hungry.
Okay, but let's look at the need to have zero tolerance to people coming into the states and the role of the law enforcement agents to ensure that this interstate lockdown is adhered to. What do you have to say in that direction?
Let me quickly say that is part of what I was really hitting at. You see, it is one thing for the borders across the state to be locked. It's another thing for us to maximize the moment. Because the interstate lockdown is not going to continue forever. It has a lifespan. Okay, now what we do, that's the reason in my last appearance, I said something. It's not about the lockdown. It's about the measures, the methods, the approaches to ensure that within the period of the lockdown, these and that are achieved.
The methods, approaches, the monitoring.
The monitoring, those are the points. Because it's not about to say they are in a state lockdown. Now, what are we doing during the interstate lockdown? Is it so much a big deal to get all the citizens of a particular state tested? It's not so much of a big deal. Because the apparatus, the government apparatus are already there. I'm talking about the tiers of government. We have the state, we have the local government, we have the councillors. So what we expect is that the different state governors should become more proactive and go into the hinterland, go into the, the public from house to house and ensure that the testing, like I said last time, if we are not proactive with our testing, we're going to have a bigger problem than we thought. Because by every seconds and every minute, the virus is spreading. So there's need to talk about proactiveness. And that's the reason why, I'm calling on the state governor, particularly Edo State governor. It should be more proactive in taking advantage of this opportunity. You cannot sit there in your office. And every day you are hearing from man around town, you are hearing people calling and whatever. Okay, if you say these people are lying, go and find out. The CP, what is the CP doing? There have been a lot of accusation on the police. We are yet to see the prosecution of some of these guys.
Okay, thank you, Osage.
These are the issues.
God sent Erunse. Osage God sent Erunse as a public affairs analyst and I think a human rights activist at this moment. And we look at the issues arising from Edo State government. Just Friday, the social media platforms were agog over the chief of staff to Governor Gordon Obaseki of Edo State, Akerele Taiwo, dropping his resignation letter. There were some kickbacks about statements, counter accusations and all of that, but in the whole, after 24 hours, it was revealed that Taiwo Akerele has basically dropped the letter of resignation and the governor really accepted it. But again, looking at the build-up to the gubernatorial primary election, which is just June 2nd, a couple of months from now, some argue that this political development could be tilted towards that direction. What do you make of this, Osage Gosen? First, react to the resignation of the former chief of staff, Taiwo Akerele.
Let me quickly say that the Nigerian constitution and even globally, the human rights phenomena is a global thing. So we all have a right to decide. We have freedom of association. We have a right to decide whether we're going to continue with a certain policy or administration or not. So it is an absolute inalienable right of Akerele. If he decides to say I'm stepping aside, this is right. You know, it shouldn't be an issue, but we are all aware of the political undertone. But that is not enough for someone to be harassed because he has dropped his resignation letter.
What do you mean by for someone to be harassed?
Okay, if the news media is anything to go by, we heard about how the DSS invaded the house of Akirile.
But the state director, Sheikh Waziri, refuted that claim, that nothing like that happened. So I think we'll leave that.
That is the reason why I said if the news media was to go by, you know, but be that as it may, it is a right. It's not an issue. You know, but we try to politicize everything. This young man, I've read, you know, his interview. He said he had to part way based on principles and administrative grounds. Whether he decided to part way to go and join another party, it's his right, it's his decision. If he decided, if what he said were so, that he decided to part way based on principles, and I think he was quite careful with his words, it's also his right.
Okay.
So people should not raise dust out of something that really shouldn't raise dust. But again, we are aware that there's already a political talk zone in Edo State. But any person have a right to decide the camp to pitch his tent with.
Okay, we already have a replacement in the person of Osaze Uzamere Ethan. And in that direction, do you see any lapses in the kitchen cabinet of the governor?
For me, appointment should be given based on merit, not on the political profile of people's parents or fathers or mothers, be that as it may, you know. But for me, personally, as an individual, I lost confidence in the credibility of our appointments, both in this state and in this nation. Because most times...
Are you by that saying that are you by that questioning the appointment of Osaze Ozame?
I don't know him that much, but I'm talking on a general scale. I don't know him that much. I wouldn't like to pick him up because he's the son of a former senator. That would be unfair. Because he might have gotten that position based on his personal merits. But I'm trying to bring out a point that if we are to go by history and by the current situation in Edo State, we are aware that political appointment in this country is not based on merit and credibility. It's based on interest.
Okay, but if we are to look at that, will you also say that the pedigree of Taiwo Akerele is a big one that will be missed in the kitchen cabinet?
Yes, I would say so. I would say so. But you know, I always, you're talking about a young man that have rubbed shoulders with the international communities. You're talking about someone that have worked UN, European Union, and what have you, the DFID and what have you. You know, record have it that he was a hard-working person.
So it's a big loss.
Most times, yeah, it is. For me, it is. Because most times, when people have a taste of what is going on in the world, I'm talking about credible people, not mere politicians. You know, there's a rub-off. There's a way they think. You know, and that's the reason why at the time I could give it to the governor. But part of the things I keep on saying is that in all of our practices, we must have our limits. You know, even in the issue, I thought you were going to talk about the issue of the human rights. You know, we must have our limits. We must realize that our right is not something we should beg for. It's something we own. And that's the reason why quite recently I've started leading a campaign against this unnecessary offshoot of mobile courts. Every little thing, there's a mobile court. Every little thing, go to mobile court.
It's a way of containing the excesses.
See, it's not a way. It's not a way of containing the excesses. It's a new way of flouting the order, legal oppression
on using of nose masks, flouting the order of social distancing and public gathering.
Fantastic.
That becomes important to check this.
Why that is important? What have you also done to ensure, we are talking about governance responsibility and obligation to the citizenry.
Okay, by that, are you saying that the government is not living up to expectation in terms of balancing this variables?
Of course, yes, absolutely yes. The government still have a lot to do in terms of that. What does it take to provide free nose mask? No, you can sit in the glass house and don't know what people take in the field. I'm a field worker. I work among the poor. I'm involved in empowerment, in public empowerment and enlightenment. So I understand when somebody can tell you that I don't have 100 or 200 naira to buy a fixed mask. For you, it doesn't make sense. For you, what are you trying to say? That you can't raise a 200 naira. You know, but the truth remains that if you can see what our policemen are doing on the highway, that sometimes we have had cases in this nation where some people have been picked up because of 100 naira, it will also tell you that even those at the top pay so much attention to something as little as 100 naira. So we have a fundamental cases of massive abuse of human rights, both in this nation and in this state. And the new method is to legalize it through the unnecessary establishment of all kind of mobile courts. I can tell you the different, beside the face mask thing, all other areas, any little thing there's a face mask, the local government are towing the same line. If you don't pay these levies, within 48 hours you are going to the court. Is it a new way of oppression? Why are the learned men not asking the government to meet up to their own side of the obligation?
Okay.
Before you come up and say there must be face masks.
I think that's your call to action in that direction.
Before you come out and say stay at home, make sure people have the means to stay at home.
Thank you, Osage.
Those are the issues.
You've really articulated your point in this direction. Big thanks for finding time to be here, and I wish you a beautiful day ahead.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Well, I think Osage Godson just gave me a word appetite to get the attention of a legal practitioner, a custodian of the law, as we look at the human rights abuses and the effects of COVID-19 on the legal system here in Nigeria. I will be joined by Idemudia Osifo, a legal practitioner, shortly. Stay with me.